Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I want to talk about an important topic. It's related to men, and over some time now, I um, I have daily routines that I do, right, for exercise. And one of my daily routines for exercise is I walk a couple of miles about 6 days a week, right, for health benefits. So um, I live in the majority heavily populated Muslim area, right? So some people know me where I live from some time or periods of time that I used to give khutbah in certain masjids in my locality, and I used to be imam in one area. So over the years, I got to meet a lot of people, or I know a lot of people. So in my daily walks, I always bump into brothers I know from all different backgrounds, all different nationalities. Uh, and they always tell me they see me every day when they're coming from work or like this. They see me walking and then they stop me and we just chit chat for a little while. So the last few brothers that stopped me and to have conversations, I noticed that we all have something in common. And the brothers I'm talking to are from the same race, Black American, Desi brothers, African brothers. And every brother I meet, every brother who stopped me on my daily walks for exercise, all of them are complaining about the same thing. Some of these brothers don't know each other. So when I be walking sometimes, I know people who are Muslim who own business. Sometimes they chat with me and stop with me because they know me from certain masjid. Sometimes it's my close companions who I don't see every day due to the pandemic and people are working. So they stop to make sure they talk to me, right? And I noticed that the brothers have something, all of them have something in common. Every last one of them. Every last one of them. All of them are in court. I say it again. All of them, in some forms of fashion, are in court. Either they're in family court or they're in Supreme Court for divorce. Every last one of them. And all of them are complaining about the same thing: the sisters, the women, and the legal system. So, in this particular video, I want to talk about things that concern men. This is not a disclaimer. Disclaimer, this is not legal advice, but something that I'm noticing with brothers that we need to sit down and talk about. And I'm from New York. And New York is a very hectic place. And I find in New York, it's not the best place for family. It's not the best place for family. I don't care what is the nationality of the person, on what country they come from, are they originally American or not. Everybody is going to the grinder. Everybody. So I had a conversation with a brother last night who was Desi Muslim. It was Desi. And he started crying. I haven't seen his brother in a while. I know that he has some death in his family, but we were just chit chatting, and he was coming from work, and he stopped me because we know every time he see me, I like to talk about Dawah and Islam and the religion and men stuff, right? So I asked how the family's doing and stuff like this, and he tells me he's in court now, and he just recently had a baby, and he started crying because the mother won't allow him to see the child, and this is their first child, and it's a newborn, and he's hurting, and he's crying, and he's talking about how he's in court, and it's come to my mind like every time a brother stopped me, and these are working men, right? These are brothers who are working, they're coming from their job or they're on the clock when I see them, and they stop and they talk, and it's like everybody have some issue, family issue in New York. Every Muslim have some type of family issue. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of places for the Muslim men to go to, meaning in the community. These are some things that a lot of brothers might be keeping to themselves, might be suffering because of this, might be having some mental health challenges because they can't go to the masjid and talk about their business, right? Because sometimes, especially if it's a person who was born Muslim, have a Muslim family, might be people in the masjid that he's in, that's family that he's in opposition with, so he can't talk about too much in the masjid, right? Or they're already spreading bad they are spreading gossip about you in the masjid from the opposite side of the family. Unfortunately, these things do happen for those Muslims who are weak and like to gossip. So I find that a lot of brothers are going through something. Black Americans, Black Afro-Caribbean, African, Desi, Arabs, you name it. Everybody's going through some issue. But what I find with what is related to all the brothers, everybody's in court. Some of the brothers who are in court, either the women initiated the divorce through the court system, or the brothers had to initiate something through the court system to have rights to see their children, or the brothers are have custody of the children and we call ACS, or I think some people might call it CPT in other states, right? Child services, or trying to take the children from the father, right? Or the father's trying to get the child, or the mother's refusing uh, the visitation to see the child. So one thing I have to say, because here on social media, due to inferiority complex on social media related to black Americans or black people, that there's very common on social media like YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, any type of spaces where black people are gender fighting about women, modern day women, arguing back and forth with black women. And I always would say, I do recognize black women in America, not just black women, modern day women in America got issues. But I noticed the African American, they use the topic to fight other black people, meaning black men against black women or black women against black men, which is one of the results of inferiority complex that comes from white supremacy, right? It's inferiority complex that it comes from white supremacy, where we have self-hate, and that self-hate is seen in our culture, educational system, cultural system, so society, psychologically, in our society, and social economical, right? So we'll be going back and forth. So I want to show here that it's not a black woman issue, even though black women have this issue. It is a modern day woman issue, and the legal system that support the women behavior, meaning that they support her irrational thinking in some cases, right? So as the brothers who I'm listening to and I bump into, and they all have this issue going on, I find with each one of them, every last one of them, they're in court, right? And another factor that's very important to mention, that some of the brothers, some of their situations with their women, with their wives, could be fixed, if the Muslim community had real, professional, qualified Muslim who have knowledge of the religion, who have knowledge about counseling or psychotherapy, to give married couples counseling, right? So they don't have to end up going to court. They don't have to end up in family court. They don't have to end up in Supreme Court. So all these scenarios that I'm telling you of, when I ask each one of them, have anybody in the Muslim community, any sheikh, any imam, any professional person is giving you or you and your spouse marital counseling because some of the issues that you're fighting about or arguing about, which is always money, every last one of them is money or mental health or intermixed between this or woman in her jealousy. All right. Woman in her jealousy, where she doesn't know how to control her jealousy based on uh, delusional paranoia ideas that the man is cheating or looking at some other woman, right? And this is real. Some people might say, I don't have this problem with my wife, but this is something that is real, right? So some of the issues can be solved in the environment where there's an imam, a sheikh, or professional person who's Muslim, who does marital counseling, can sit down and get the couples to see what is wrong in this case. If somebody has bad thinking or behavior or pattern that is not healthy, and this unhealthy behavior or pattern or thinking is destructive and it will lead to divorce, and why and how divorce affect children, right? Sometimes the person, maybe he or she, will sit down and reflect and think about what's going on. Sometimes the woman have influence from her family members who are ignorant. Sometimes she have influence from non-Muslims. Sometimes she have influence from the society, or sometimes it's the court system who really don't want it to work it out because there's a business and child support. It's a business for the courts, child support. It's a business for the courts to keep the courts doors open. You have to pay for a lawyer. You have to pay court fees, right? Courts get money, a certain amount of money from child support. So it's a business in the legal sense. It's a business. If people was not going to court or using the court, they won't be open. So they have to find a way to keep their doors open and people getting their salaries. All right. ACS, child services. If people don't need their services, everything is going right and proper in family structure, then none of these um organizations, or I mean none of these facilities will be open. For sure, courts need to keep the courts running. People need to get their salary. ACS here in New York works with the court system. Straight up, ACS work with the court system. I know because I'm in family court, right? So ACS, Child Services, they work with the court system. So it's a business. It's a business. So sometimes, for sure, they don't want sulh بين الزوج والزوجة. They don't want sulh, right? Coming together, reconciling their differences, right? You go to court, you go to trial. That's you need a lawyer. You have to pay for the lawyer. You go to trial. That's more money you have to spend. So it's a business, right? So what I have noticed from all the brothers I bump into who have these marital discords, marital problems, in a lot of cases, majority of every case, I think within the last 2 months, I bumped into about 3 or 4 brothers on my daily exercise walk. I bump into like at least 4 brothers all in court, and each one of them is a different nationality. But unfortunately, majority of them were black. Majority of them were black, right? And all of them in the same scenario. And I asked every last one of them, did any masjid or community or imam or sheikh or tulab or students of knowledge give you guys any marital counseling? No. And the majority of their answers are there's nobody in the community to give this type of counseling. And one scenario, one brother maybe was going through counseling with somebody in the masjid for about a year or so or longer, but it didn't work. And even I think even in one of my walks, they even had a contract related to the child and the upbringing, and when they went to court, the mom was like, "Forget that stuff. I don't, forget that stuff from the masjid." The lawyer was like, in one of the scenarios, a brother was telling me, and all of this is the women, black women, Desi women, Arab women. So wherever you come to this place, right? And you bring women from outside this country to this place, I don't care how strong she appear to be on Islam. Once you get a taste of this feminist society and legal system, for sure the weakness of the woman, the weakness of the woman, the weakness of the women, the weakness of the women is going to indulge in this. For example, Islam doesn't give women the power for divorce for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is delusional. Another reason, as Allah said, "Rijalun qawwalun 'ala nisa." Allah gave man a position above the women. So most men don't make emotional decisions in most cases. And most men want their family structure to work. Right? So in all these situations that I'm meeting Muslim men, including myself in family court, right? Including myself, right? In all these situations, and majority of it related to court, it doesn't end well for the men. Most cases, it don't end well. Only know a few cases where it wins well for the men. Only a few cases I have met. Few men I met, Muslim and non-Muslim men I have met, that it won in their favor, right? It won in their favor. Either or something's wrong with the mom, some mental health issues, some serious health issues, don't have a place to live, and don't have finance issues, and the man is well off. Some cases he get his kids. I see some cases he get his kids, right? In some cases, I met a few brothers and the sisters where the sister really wanted to focus on her career, and for that case, she give the kids to the father, right? Because she wants to focus on her career, traveling, going here and there. So the courts, give the kids to the father, if he's financially stable or not. I know some men who are not financially stable and they still have custody of their kids. They have some type of income, but they're not rich. They still have custody of their kids. So back to the discussion about family court, and I told brothers who are in family court and have small children, or like in my case, I have various of children, varies from the ages, right? I told them that in one scenario, a brother wanted the child and is a newborn. I said, the baby has a haq, has a particular right from the mom, breast milk and breastfed, and you can't take no care of no newborn with a 9 to 5 job, 7 days a week, unless you could produce breast milk, or you have a family member who has still could breastfeed your children, right? The mom, the baby needs to stay with the mom, and that even is from Islam. So I tell some brothers also, to you have small children, I would advise you to learn about the rights of children, especially newborns and young babies. Learn it in Islam, and learn it from Islamic perspective, and learn it from a human development perspective, or child, understanding the psychology of children and how children are and babies are. You need to learn some of these things, right? And also, when I was going back to what I said before, that in most of these scenarios I met, no one in the communities No one in the communities is giving people marital counseling. And unfortunately, for where I live, there's some huge masjids here that they get a lot of money from donations. There's a few of the masjids in my locality. I know these brothers frequent these particular masjids in my area, and the masjids have they're sitting on a lot of money from donations. Have maybe the masjid itself, the building is worth $1 million of more, and they have many people in the community who are professional Muslims. So we know we're talking about Muslims from different backgrounds and certain ethnic groups, like I mentioned, Desi or Arabs. Then you already know they have professional people in the community who are doctors and lawyers, and they giving up the money to the masjid, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the masjid cannot have no marriage counseling. How ironic is that? No marriage counseling, but taking hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe yearly, for donations from the people. You have no educational system for them, no Islamic educational system, no schools, no marriage counseling. What happened now is everybody, you can't depend on Friday khutbah, a khutbah or Yomul Juma and Nushuz to be the solution only for marital problems. First of all, women, Juma Friday is not even obligatory for Muslim women to attend. So how the message going to reach them? The majority of the women don't come to Juma because it's not far for them to come. And you can't have masjids where it's just about talk, and donations, and you're not performing as a masjid should be performing for the people in the community. And if everybody having marital problems and arguing and debating or having problems in the family structure, and people are getting divorced, and people and children are separated, and the master can't offer anything for the people except for keep on asking for a lot of donations. And I'm talking here specifically for New York, man. All right, and I live in the Queens, so most of the Muslims in Queens, New York, is Desi Muslims. All right, you have the large masjids and the large communities, and they have the professional people who have the money. I even asked this associate, I'm like, there's no one you guys could go to in your community to talk to, and all these masjids that are like $1 million masjids, no one in the community, and he's like, no, no, no. And in some cases, the people don't even want to go to the masjid because they be gossiping about people's business. The masjid should be the first place where Muslims are able to go who are married couples for counseling. And then when you start realizing is that a lot of people don't have this understanding who are running the Muslim communities. That's right, Nor. There's enough money in the larger masses of New York to hire a material therapist on staff. There are marital therapists. They have. They definitely have a lot of these individuals in the community. I remember many years ago when I first came from Egypt back to the US, I met a brother. I used to teach his children Arabic language. And this brother was married to a sister, and it was two different ethnic groups, right? So they didn't have any children, but they had children from other marriages. And they was telling me somebody in the masjid was giving them sessions for marital counseling, right? Somebody who was introduced to them, or they was introduced to the person in the masjid, wasn't part of the actual masjid. And it was like they paying this guy like $200 a session. $200 a session, man. $200 a session. I was like, wow, $200 a session, and still had a lot of problems going on. I was like, 200. And I know another particular brother who told me he had marital problems, and he's also in one of these interracial marriages. And he went to one of these popular masses in my area that have a lot of money. He went there for marital counseling, and the person who gives the cookbook supposed to be their sheikh there is like, oh, they don't do marriage counseling there. They don't got nobody to do marriage counseling. And they calling this guy sheikh. I'm like, he's like, go to this other masjid, you know? And actually, tell him go to the masjid where our brother Muhammad Munir is at. So I told my companion, he said, go to the guy told him, the imam in this masjid said, go to Muhammad Munir. He could give you marital counseling. So I said to my companion, did you go to Muhammad Munir? He said, no, I didn't want to bother him and stuff like that. All right. I think their brother married them off or something like that. But this other masjid he went to was an all Desi community, mixed, professional people. Masjid is probably worth like maybe $1 million or more. I'm like, you get all these donations in this particular big fancy masjid, and you guys cannot get any marital counseling in this masjid, but this masjid is collecting all this money from the Muslims, and they have nobody qualified in their community to teach religion and to even give marital counseling. Then they wonder why everybody in the community are getting divorced or family having problems. And it's like the big elephant in the room inside the communities in the Muslim community. Because all these companions I meet and people who stop me, I'd be like, first thing I ask, because where I live is so many masjids where I live. And these are not like corner store masjids. Here in New York, corner store masjids, like, a couple of brothers get together with a little money they have, they get like the tax ID and don't even get the 501c3. They get a tax ID and they just get a little corner, a little building, a little spot, a little hole in the wall, make it a masjid. I'm not talking about this type of masjid. I'm talking about huge property that they have. Money. They be collecting donations. I'm like, and they don't have none of these services in the masjid. And I go and I talk to these brothers. I'm like, what masjid you go? Right first, when they told me about the problem, I asked them what masjid they go to. They said, oh, this masjid right here and this masjid right here. I'm like, yeah, this masjid make all this money. They get all this money from donation. No one there could give you and your wife counseling. It's like, no, there's nobody in the communities that do counseling. I'm like, yo, man, you need to go find somebody to give your wife or your spouse some advice. Because the court system, they don't look to solve problems. They don't look to solve problems. Even though some judges might try. The judge might say, man, these people just need somebody to give them some marital counseling in the court would give that to them, right? In some cases. In some cases, the woman lawyer or nah. The husband got money, nah. They talking about, establishing her own thing financially from this guy. Forget fixing the problem. Fixing the problem for the lawyer, it's like, oh man, this client of mine, if they sulh, reconcile, then I can't get that $10,000 or more when we go to trial. I got, the lawyer is like, yo, I got tuition to pay. I got a mortgage to pay. I got a child in private school where I got to pay their tuition. So for sure, the lawyer is like, nah, man, Let's get custody and this and this and that. Let's go to trial so he could get that money to pay off his mortgage or his student loan or his tuition for his kids in school. Come on, man. American legal system in America is a business. I don't care if it's criminal court, family court, Supreme Court, civil court for sure. It is a business for people. And people have to keep those things going. You have to keep those things going so that to keep the dysfunction going. So we need to have in the community, which alhamdulillah, there's communities that have these things and have the medium for Muslims to sit at or a way for them to fix family problems. But then you have some communities, they don't have anybody who is qualified. That's the next issue. I have met some communities that have people in the community who help people with marital problems, but they don't have no qualifications. I mean here that they make the situation worse. I say it again. They make the situation worse than it was before. Worse than it's before. And then unfortunately, I can remember back in the days in some communities, especially black Salafi communities and black Afro-American communities, where you go for marital counseling, the next thing you know, you're divorced and the imam is married to your wife, your ex-wife, a couple of months later after you. Or one of his close companions is married to your ex-wife right after the imam gave you a divorce. I know a lot of those scenarios. So I'm about to end this video. I want to conclude with giving some advice for men out there and for sisters too. All right. It's not exclusive to just men, but to sisters too. The Muslims need to start having a good understanding on the usra in Islam. All right. The Muslims need to start having a good understanding about usra, family structure in Islam. And you need to have some type of understanding from Quran and Sunnah, and also from a general knowledge of human development and child psychology. And we have the Islamic versions of these also. Like I was talking to an associate recently, and I was telling him, when you married and stuff, all that screaming and yelling back and forth between the women and the men and yelling in front of kids, that gives children trauma. That gives the children trauma. Talking bad about the other parent in front of the children, that's not good for children. Domestic violence is not only physical, it's also verbal. Women screaming and yelling. A lot of people try to pass off this hadith of Umar radiallahu anhu, where Umar radiallahu anhu, wife was screaming and yelling. All right. And I know the authenticity of this hadith. And a companion was going to Umar to ask him about, he has a problem with his wife. And then he stepped off when he seen Umar's wife screaming at him. And then he turned around and said, this associate or this companion to Umar. Umar was like, "Why are you leaving?" He's like, I was getting advice for you about my wife. And he can see that his wife is yelling at him, right? And Umar say something like, "Well, this is the mother of my children." I know Arabs love to take this hadith. Screaming and yelling in front of children is not correct in Islam. Yelling and fighting in front of children, the Prophet ﷺ didn't have this etiquette. The Prophet ﷺ didn't have this etiquette. And some Muslims try to pass off these particular hadith, like the one of Umar, as, yeah, it's okay for the woman to screaming and yelling and stuff. I mean, women have shortcomings, but we need to start understanding the yelling, screaming, and shouting. This is not good for relationships. It's not good for your mental health, your spiritual health, and it's definitely not good for children, because children start learning that, oh, this is normal behavior, screaming and yelling. Um, that's be- that's a good question. Why do some women talk bad about their father in front of their kids? That's because the woman is dysfunctional. That's a dysfunction right there. That is dysfunction. That's a dysfunction right there. Women talk bad about their kids. I mean, talk bad about the children father in front of them. That shows that the woman herself, she is naqis. She is naqis fi aqliha. She's naqis. She's deficient in her aql. That's what that is. Her emotion rules her, not her intellect. And then it could be also from not having a proper education. For those who do it, don't know the harms of it. Could be not from having proper education, the proper tarbiyah we call in Islam. That's right. Kids are like sponges. You create the idea of normal. That's right. So they think the screaming and yelling is normal. And then they teach this to the children. And we find a lot of this in our society here in America, especially amongst the inner city, where you have a lot of single mothers with kids, and the male children behave like women because they don't got no father in the house. And the males start having being emotional, charged, have no discipline, can't monitor or can't control their emotions, and they base decisions in their life based on their emotions, not on their rationality, because they've been raised by women who made their decisions based on emotions and not rationality. So we need to start having in the community talk about the correct behavior for women, children. I see a lot of brothers teach about Islamic etiquettes, but they don't talk about those issues in detail. They skip around it, right? They don't talk about these issues in detail. They might not know, or they skip around it, or lack of better saying, Jay, this they think that you should just get the point of it. If they talk about a particular topic about ethics and that, it's included. These things are also included. What I mentioned is all included in it without teaching or saying that no, behaving like this is not normal. For example, they might say the Prophet ﷺ and the hadith related to Zayd bin Harith, right, who was a servant of the Prophet ﷺ. He would say that if he didn't do something of his chores, the Prophet never questioned him about it, right? He never got mad and upset. So they might mention this hadith or mention this narration, but might not put emphasis to say the Prophet didn't get mad. He didn't scream and yell at the kids when they didn't do things they're supposed to do, right? They might not mention, well, because screaming and yelling at kids will cause them to have certain type of trauma. So they might not mention those things, and they might mention this narration, but they might not go into the deep depths. As I just went into the deep depths, screaming and yelling is not healthy for children. Screaming and yelling in front of kids, it's not arguing and fighting. That's not healthy for children. Yes, that's why many men divorce their wives and look for wives in Africa and Asia. Russian marriage is like a death sentence. Yeah, but I forgot to tell you that in this scenario, the people I'm talking about, half of them were not American. I just told you about the brothers I bumped into the street and they in court. Half of them are not American. Half of them were not born and raised in America. Half of them. Told you they was Desi and African. Some of them brothers, Desi and African. And I've been an imam before, and I'm telling you, from African sisters, oh, they married to their men from their country. Some of them, they end up in divorce. Oh man, they end up in divorce. Mental health. Oh, African sisters, some of them suffer from mental health. Yes, 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 yes. From Senegal, I can name the country right here: Gambia, Senegal. No, a lot of sisters right here in New York from these countries suffer from mental health. Don't want to take meds. Don't want to take meds. I'm serious. I know brothers going, African brothers marrying African sisters, and they got to take them to court to get their kids from the mom. They don't want to take their meds. They psych meds, and they be going crazy outside, crazy. The kids no control. The kids are like, kids like, what's going on with mom? And she's like losing her mind, and she don't want to take her meds, and this and that. Ah, man. And whatever women you bring to this country, is she weak in her deen or she's strong in her deen, she gonna be tested with her deen here. She gonna be tested. Why you think the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there's no hijrah to dar kufr? Why you think the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there's no hijrah to dar kufr? See, the Muslims from the Muslim world, when they come here, they never think about those things. Why did the Prophet sallallahu prohibit making hijrah to dar kufr? You can only go to the dar kufr, non-Muslims, for only certain conditions. Some knowledge that's not in your country, you come here for it, then you go back. Jihad fi sabilillah, fighting to spread Islam there. Yeah, guys are not involved in no dawah. You definitely don't have no Islamic knowledge. You ain't no ulama. Some medical treatment that's in the Western or the non-Muslim country that's not in your country, then you go back. Some type of education that's necessary for the Muslims to have, you learn it, then you go back, like medical field, engineering. You go back and you benefit your country. Right? So a brother's going overseas, yeah, you get married, don't bring the woman back here. Muslims never talk about that hadith. The Prophet said there's no hijrah to dar kufr. You know how many Muslim kids I have seen who family from Muslim countries here in America? They're in gangs, they're on drugs, they're on this and on that, gay and homosexual and this and that. Just because their parents want to come here for money or a better way of life, and they end up losing their kids. You know? But yeah, I know brothers who go overseas and get married, but it doesn't mean that, I've been overseas and I've been married overseas. Overseas women, the only difference in the Muslim country overseas is just the man got a little bit more say so. That's about it. But you get divorced in the Muslim country, the mom going to get the kids. Only thing you probably not worrying about is child support. They can't force no money to come out your paycheck, right? So if you go to a Muslim country and it don't work out, and maybe the court system, the Islamic system will support who the children go with. But in the Muslim country, the government leads towards to keep the family together. You got me? In the Muslim country, the government, which is whether it's a Muslim government or somewhat secular, but when it comes to family, still have Islam, right? They lean towards things that would keep the family from breaking up, because the court system is not making money off of you, like here in America. So the government is going to lean towards whatever keep the family together. So the woman complaining about the husband, court might tell her, go be patient. The imam who work with the court might say, have some sabr, go have sabr, go have some patience, give us some dawah. Talk to the father, the children, or talk to the husband, They look to make sulh. Somebody comes, they want to sulh, how to fix to rectify the problem before divorce. You bring the woman here, forget it, I don't care. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. I know a lot of people on Facebook. I'm about to leave because it's Maghrib time. I know a lot of people on Facebook, social media from different countries, different countries, right? And I remember I was talking to somebody last year. Brother married a sister from a Southeast Asian Muslim country, brought her to his country. After like a year there, divorce. Look at why you want divorce, sister. Oh, want more money. I'm like, but you was living in your country, and what he's providing you was less than that, and you were happy. She comes to the Western country, She see what other women doing. They have their careers and all of this stuff, and this going to she go whatever way she want to go, and then she wants the same thing for herself. Then they fighting, and she goes to court and get divorced because now she see that women could get more money from the divorce, and the woman bought the woman from a Muslim country. Man, don't mean nothing. Women are weak. Women are weak. I'm not saying it's going to be everybody or everybody who does this is going to be in the same predicament. No, but women are weak. In the Russian government, it appeals to the woman's weakness. It appeals to it, and it assists her in the weakness. You know, or I'm going through divorce, and my children mother, the woman, she's not from this country, from a Muslim country. I mean, one time I was in family court here in Manhattan, New York. I'm looking. One time in Queens and one time in Manhattan. I'm looking. I remember one time here in Queens, everybody in family court and got problems with the wife and the woman, all the one that was in there, majority of them all Muslims from Muslim countries. Southeast Asians, Africans. Don't think, bro, because the woman come from a Muslim country, they're not complaining. They won't be complaining. Women is women. Woman is woman. You go to the Muslim country, the woman in the court in the Muslim country complaining. I lived in the Muslim country, more than one. I live in at least three, traveled to at least four Muslim countries, and lived in one of them for 2 years. I've been to Egypt, Morocco, Indonesia, and lived somewhere else, another Western country. Right? Lived in Egypt and visited other Muslim countries. And you go to in their countries, and in the Muslim country, the women are in court and family court and all this stuff too. Trust me. They're complaining and stuff. Don't think because the woman's from the Muslim country that she's perfect. It's just you go to certain countries, and man, the woman ain't getting no divorce. From Muslim country, she ain't getting no divorce. Oh, I don't like how the guy looked today. Ain't anybody granting her no divorce for that. Oh, his money's a little bit low. Anybody granting him no her the divorce for that. Tell him be patient. It's like beating her or something really abusive or on drugs like this, and they grant her divorce probably. He's not financially, not taking care of the kid at all, not working at all. And they try to give him some advice and this and that, and then maybe, right? But the women are in the courts complaining they're in the Muslim world. Don't be deceived and think that you get the woman from overseas that you're going to be no problems. Oh, women are women. It's just the Muslim court. It don't appeal or pleases the women. However, American Russian court system does. So any little grievance she have, even if the grievance is not Islamic or based on her something delusional about her, the court here in America is going to be with her. It's with her. It's with her. Yeah, divorce. Yeah, divorce. Yeah, split up. Yeah, it's with her. It's a business. It's a business. Everybody's getting paid. It's a capitalist society. American capitalist society, because the capitalism could be seen in the American court system. Everybody's getting paid. It's a business. No one's saying it's a multi-dollar, like it's not a $1 million business, but it's a business. How many people went to law school? You know how much it costs to go to law school? You know how much tuition they had to pay, or how much the student loan costs? You think the judge in court don't have student loans for law school? Got student loans. The judge got student loans. They got to pay off too. The judge got a mortgage. She got to pay off. Everybody's working in court got some type of mortgage or something or student loan to pay off. It's a business. It's a business. Capitalism, you can see some of the reflection of capitalism in American court system. It's a business. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. I know a brother who got married in Africa and traveled back and forth. She has 4 kids for him, from him, alhamdulillah. And when I asked if they're going to come to UK, he replied, hell no. That's right. Hell no. That's right. Hell no. That's right. The dysfunction makes the court, prison, and parole system profitable. That's right. Here in New York, we have Rikers Island in New York, right? So the politicians who are Democrat, supposed to be all liberals now, saying let's close down Rikers Island, right? And I'm for that. I'm for some real reform. Yeah, make social problems so people don't gotta be running the street. Black people don't gotta be running the street doing crime. They can have some type of skill that they could work and make money with. But the government in New York would never do that. The liberals would never do that, right? Because the system was designed to keep certain people below poverty or below poverty, right? So know what the Democrats want to do in New York? They decided to what? Build more jails, not regular jails. They want to build mega jails. I have a video of this on my YouTube. If you're looking at YouTube, right? What the Democrat plans are for black folks, right? You guys, so you see these Democrats who are black, just like me, who said in the beginning, one of them, the mayor of New York, said no to building extra jails in New York, this mega jail. He got elected. Now he's like, yeah, we got to build these mega jails. So I was talking to somebody, right? I'm like, who you think these jails are for? They ain't from the white kids. They ain't for white people and white people and white kids. They're from black people. They're making them jails for white people. I mean, for black people. Matter of fact, one of the boroughs is Staten Island, which is more conservative and more white folks, and they racist as hell, right? Staten Island. The people in Staten Island said, don't bring them jails into where we at. So Staten Island is a borough. So they're building it in other boroughs, Manhattan, Queens, and the Bronx. No, not the Bronx. I think in Manhattan, because Manhattan and Bronx is right there. A mega jail is going to be one of the jails is going to be in Chinatown, New York, in Chinatown, and it's going to be I think the second or the second largest building in New York, a mega jail. So it's a business, man. This thing is a business, and they're not going to close down Rikers Island when they finish building them jails. This might just lower the population in Rikers Island, but they claim in Rikers Island they need to close it down. But no, you're going to keep Rikers Island open, and you're going to spread out the inmates into these different boroughs. And who's going to be in these jails? Ain't no white folks going to be in there. No Jewish people is not going to be in there. Only white folks going to be in there is going to be working in there. It's going to be for black folks, black people's kids. Prison to pipeline. That's who they building it for. So the court system ain't trying to solve problems. This family court is going to separate them, right? The school's going to miseducate them and prepare them for the prison where they're going to go. That's where the nice white guy, the white Caucasian guy who didn't do too good in school, couldn't be the doctor or lawyer, he have the job opportunity to work in that mega jail, which will be flooded with those black kids. Come on, man. The system is all jacked up. So Muslims need to have their own system for fixing their family problems, so they don't have to go to these courts. At least from the Masjids in New York, we'll end on this because I need to pray Maghrib. At least the Masjids in New York need to have serious counseling. And if the Masjids are not willing to do it, because Masjids in New York are not like Masjids should be, not ran like them. Masjids have a whole nother agenda. It's about money. Masjids in New York about making money from the 501c3. That's a whole nother story. And I got proof of that from the pandemic in New York. Or I have some proof on one of my accounts. I recorded a talk during the pandemic for all the masjids in Queens, New York. I think Queens and Brooklyn, when they shut down all religious places and all the buildings. Most of the masjids in New York, and this call with the local government at the time in these boroughs in Queens and Brooklyn about the Muslim community was around Ramadan. Majority of all the Arab masjids was complaining that they cannot keep the masjid open so they could get donations. While people was getting sick with COVID during the pandemic in New York, I only heard like one Desi masjid was asking the local government, what they have financially planned to help those Muslims in their community who can't go to work because of the pandemic, and how to protect the workers who have to go to work, how they're going to protect them from getting COVID. Or like one Desi Masjid acts. So local Desi Masjid by where I live, is it right? I was like surprised. They imam, he always talk about money, but that day he's like, no, how to protect people. The Arab masjids, oh no, 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 let's keep the masjids open. We need to pay the mortgage for the masjid. How are we going to pay the mortgage for the masjid? The people not allowed to come to the masjid to pray, and people dying from COVID in their communities. I got a matter of fact, I got a video on my YouTube page of the funeral homes, and one of the funeral homes in Brooklyn, Arab Muslim funeral homes, flooded with children, adults, died from COVID. They had so many corpse in their morgue and in their funeral home from the morgue that they didn't have spaces for them. You see some of the bodies on top of each other. This is a Muslim funeral home. The Muslims in the Arab Muslims, their community was dying, and they masjids talking about they want to keep the doors open because they got to pay the mortgages for their masjid. Masjids are a joke in New York. Most masjids to me, they are a joke. If they're not a grassroots masjid, where people local in the community want to do something, if he's one of these masters making money and living off of the donations and all that stuff, they don't have the best interest for the Muslim. They don't care about Muslims' health, Muslims' well-being, or the Muslim families as a business. Just like the Yahud in some cases. That's New York. And you don't believe me? When I finish this video, I'm going to add them links in the description of the video. So the Muslims need to, if so the Masjids don't do it, Muslims who have the know-how, have the counseling service, who fear Allah, you could if you're watching this video, you could contact me. You could leave a comment on here. And I would definitely reply. If you have some services like this, the Muslims need to do it outside the masjids. I need to have these services available outside the masjid, because the masjids here in New York, I can't speak about other boroughs. I mean, I can't speak about other states or other places in the West, about New York, Pacific New York. They don't. They just care about this. They don't care about Muslims' well-being. Only very few communities care about the Muslim community, but people well-being. So if somebody has some program for marriage counseling, and maybe I could do an interview with you, we could talk on one of these lives, and we could have a discussion. If I feel that you don't have enough Islamic knowledge, maybe you qualified for the marriage counseling, but you're not coming from an Islamic perspective, I'm not going to deal with you. I'm just going to be straight up. I ain't going to deal with you, because a lot of times you guys be coming with stuff that contradict Quran and Sunnah, and the people still end up divorced. And you be given the wrong advice based on Eurocentric psychology that doesn't benefit Black folks, Arabs, Asians. You know, Western psychology is really built on white supremacy, preserve white family. But if you have some qualifications in those fields, psychology, marriage counseling, you have a good understanding of Islam, I wouldn't mind working with somebody who wants to do a live or want to talk about it or have a program they want to promote. You could definitely contact me in the comment section of this video. So subhanakallahumma bihamdik wa shalala wa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. May Allah make it easy for you, for the people in the comment, and for the brother gave this comment, FS. May Allah make it easy for you and all of us. Ameen.